and welcome to this episode of Round Robin. Today we're going to talk a little bit about tourism. Who comes to Hampton, why they come, and how much they spend. With me today is Sallie Grant Divenuti. Welcome, Sallie.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Now let me just ask you first, you've been with the city's tourism department for how long?
18 years.
I was going to say, you have quite a bit of background and understanding. And have you seen tourism grow during that period of time?
Tremendously. We started with just basically a regional destination where people could drive within a couple of hours to get here. Mm-hmm. Then we grew along with the Air and Space Center, brought additional people in here. Convention Center brought in more, Peninsula Town Center. So as we've been developing Hampton as a true destination, our reach has really spread. So now our typical visitor could come from North Carolina to New York. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio are all good destinations for people to drive in here to Hampton.
Right, especially I bet you Pennsylvania and Ohio. When you're inland, you know, coming to a water or historical place always is really nice. So who does come to Hampton?
Well, typically we have different market segments that come to Hampton, different groups of people. We have folks that come in for vacation with their family, which are our leisure travelers. We have people that are coming here for conventions and meetings. They generally are on a fixed schedule. And then we have some that are here for athletic competitions. So those are the three big groups. Obviously there's subsets within all of those, but those are the three major groups. The leisure visitor is the one probably the least noticed by our citizenry. These are folks that have planned their vacation and they're coming to Hampton, or maybe they're taking a short vacation, maybe it's a Wednesday through Sunday getaway type thing, mm-hmm. and those folks will come from like the Washington, D.C. area, Richmond, maybe Roanoke, about 2 to 4 hours drive distance. So we market to them in a different way than we would for someone who's looking to come here and spend 7 or 8 days, say at Buckrow and all the other attractions. Our conventions are just that. They're meetings and conventions that are generally planned by one person or a company, and they basically tell the folks that are going to the meeting where they're going to go.
Right, they have a schedule or they have some free time or
correct.
However that works.
So we work with the meeting planners individually to convince them to make the decision to bring people to Hampton. A lot of those folks go to our convention center. Mm-hmm. Obviously they do go to our full service hotels as well. So they have some free time and they go to different attractions, mostly shop and eat.
Right, right.
Always on everybody's agenda. And then our sports teams traditionally had been 1 or 2 in April when Boo Williams brings his spring invitational, mm-hmm. to the point now that we have athletic groups in, I'd say probably 40 out of 52 weeks of the year.
Wow,
so
that's
it's
great.
A significant increase.
And those would come usually from a day's drive or less than a day's drive. I mean, I know I have some friends in Northern Virginia who come for volleyball tournaments with their daughters, so I get to see them when they're in town.
Well, you would think so. Obviously the local market, and local by, that's that mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C. But depending on the tournament or the event, we can have competitors from all over the country.
Well, there are a couple of national scale
teams,
events
right.
that are
we
held
do a
there.
lot of, we actually do several national tournaments and qualifications and championships here. So those folks actually fly in and then stay in our hotels, which is what we love.
All right, well, let's take each one of those groups and talk about them a little bit more. So if I am here as a leisure, this is my vacation. Maybe mm-hmm. it's a long weekend, maybe it's a week. Where do I spend my money? What do I do? Tell me what I'm doing while I'm in Hampton.
You're having a good time, first off, because you're in Hampton.
Of course.
Traditionally, our leisure visitors will look on the internet to get information about Hampton. They may book their hotel room online. They can even buy tickets to the Air and Space Center online. But they'll generally book a hotel, and then they can go on our website and look for different opportunities and build their own itineraries. We have a calendar of events on there that list all the activities in the city of Hampton, and they come from multiple sources. So if you're interested in art, you can go down the calendar of events and see if there's any art events going on while you'd be here over the 7-day vacation. Surprisingly enough, it used to be a high percentage of women, 35 to 50, made the decision on where the family went to vacation. Mm-hmm. While they make the final decision, they're heavily influenced children 8 to 15. And they like that high touch, high tech environment. So to that end, we've developed some iPod tours of Hampton and different areas of town, the Air and Space Center, Fort Monroe. And that way the children can get them on I say children because they are children at that point. They can get them on their iPods, they can get them on their mobile phones. So it helps bring Hampton to a little more relevance to those children, which help heavily influence the mom making the decision to come to Hampton.
Well, now, so why is this good? Why is it good to have tourists in our town?
Because they come and spend money and go home. And that isn't as crass as it sounds, but the visitors come, they enjoy Hampton, they stay in our hotels, they eat in our restaurants, they shop in our retail stores, they visit our attractions, and then they go home.
We don't have to pay for their kids' education.
Right.
We don't have to...
Public safety for the most part, and there's a lot of charges that go along with living in a city that doesn't come with a visitor. So their money is pretty much clean money. It isn't really dedicated to reinforcing poor behavior choices for the most part. So visitors it's just the most wonderful way to get money into a city that can be used for all kinds of different things.
So now our leisure travelers, do you think they're mostly here for the beach, the museums, the historical? I mean, or is it a combination of things they're looking for?
It really is a combination of things, Robin. One of the strongest market segments in the state of Virginia is the historic traveler. Virginia, having about 60% of the battlefields during the Civil War, makes an obvious choice during these next couple of years for any kind of historic traveler to come. We're involved with the Civil War Trail Program, which is a multi-state initiative that talks about the battle sites, certain sites. Our own Fort Monroe is a Civil War Trails program.
Absolutely.
We have several markers throughout the city that talks about the burning of Hampton and the Battle of the Monitor and Merrimack during the Civil War. So historic travelers make a great number of our visitors. For the sheer numbers, it would have to probably be athletic and conventions because they just have big numbers. But for our leisure, we have a lot of empty nesters as well. A lot of folks that are in their mid-50s and up that just want to come and have a wonderful location, have an opportunity to visit the Air and Space Center, go out on the Miss Hampton, enjoy the river, and enjoy kind of a quiet and very restful vacation. Obviously, this is not July weekends we're talking about.
Right.
Which is wonderful because they come in on what we call the shoulder season. That's when the kids are still in school.
It helps, right?
It does.
It's a little quieter. It's easier for them. They can get away. Well, also, didn't you tell me that African American heritage and African American history was an interesting component in Hampton as well?
It is. We have a publication that we're due to reprint soon called The Family Tree, and it talks about the African American experience from the first landing till today. And it really takes the visitor that wants to kind of track through Hampton's 400-year history through that journey from the African American standpoint. There are several opportunities to go back and actually witness in the event or location, such as the Emancipation Oak at Hampton University.
Right.
But unfortunately, so much of Hampton was burned during the various history of Hampton. So there is an opportunity for them to go and see, for example, where Mary Peak is buried. And there's those areas to touch back to history.
And the Hampton
University history.
Art Museum is a fabulous
And that's
collection.
what I was going to say. That should be the main starting point after you visited the visitor center to pick up the brochures to get through town. It's a wonderful opportunity, and it's changing. It's a very high quality museum. Most folks, if they haven't been there, should go there because
it's
they'll
amazing.
be just terribly surprised.
Now, this component is one that I think everybody in Hampton hopes is going to continue to grow with the Fort Monroe National Monument. I mean, that will give Hampton a little bit more visibility and a little bit more opportunity to be the destination instead of the 1 or 2 day stop on your way to either the rest of the Civil War battlefields or some additional beaches on the East Coast.
Fort Monroe is really a unwrapped treasure at this point. And I really do feel it's a gift that we've been given to take patronage through the years, to take care of Fort Monroe, to have those folks that come behind us witness that historical travel and the significance of Fort Monroe. And to answer your question, yes, Fort Monroe should plan very heavily into any kind of historic or even African American travel. The National Park Service in the end of this month is actually offering guided tours, narrated tours. I believe it's the 31st of March at 10:30 and at 2. But if they want to call our office or check with our website, we can verify that particular date. So the Park Service has gotten in there. They're starting to do some programming. But I would caution everyone who has a passion for Fort Monroe that this is a marathon and not a sprint.
That's right.
So it's going to take a while for all the entities to work together and to determine what that programming is going to be with input from the public, with the public work sessions, and then see the product evolve so that it is true to both the fort and to history.
Okay, so the other two components are the ones that really we don't see very often unless we bump into them at
Right.
Peninsula Town Center or at, in the Hotel Coliseum Central area for the most part. But what do you do, what does your department do to build that growth at the convention center?
Well, we have sales managers on staff that have particular market segments, religious, fraternal, government, and they go out to the meeting planners that plan these meetings for those entities. So with that, they bring the meeting planner in here, we show them Hampton, give them an opportunity to experience Hampton and what their groups could do when they come here. Everything from a small board meeting to, 1,000 or 5,000 in the case of a major Navy convention we have each March, that their group could come here, they can relax, they can get the agenda done, and they can do it for an affordable price. And that is one of the key benefits that Hampton has over some of its competition, is that we are a much more affordable destination for conventions.
I hadn't thought about that, but I certainly know that a lot of private businesses and individuals are cutting back on their costs and not going to conventions or going less often because it is so pricey. So coming to Hampton, maybe that's one of your selling points.
We've actually seen some of that. It kind of depends on where it falls in the tier of meetings. They've all kind of bumped down a level, if you will. So the ones that were at the bottom rung are now doing webinars. So we're losing a little bit at that bottom market, but we are seeing some of the others go to second and third tier cities like Hampton. You're right, unless we have, for example, like a Navy convention here that we had last March for 5,000 people in military uniform.
Right.
You don't really realize we have to wait that few extra minutes at the restaurant while your table is being cleaned up, or a few extra minutes while people are on the street at Peninsula Town Center or downtown walking to be able to get in their stores because they're dressed like you and us.
Exactly. That and, the Tattoo Festival, we might have noticed them.
You might have noticed those. And the lady quilters. Those are kind of very stereotyped, but for the most part, we really market to a wide variety of ages and by very diverse group of people.
Okay, well, thank you, Sallie. And one of the other benefits is if you live in a place that's a tourist attraction, you get access to all these wonderful things to see and do, and so much of it is free.
It is, and some of the new developments we have are because of the convention center and the visitors coming. When we were building the convention center, we were privileged to walk through with the backers for the Peninsula Town Center while they were making the decision what to do about Coliseum Mall. And they saw the vision. They saw that this would bring people here and generate revenue. So not only does the Peninsula Town Center and restaurants and attractions and art collections come to Hampton because there's a wide range of people, but they also have been placed here because of our visitor. Because those visitors create that traffic flow, create those general revenue streams to the city, buy our meals, stay in our hotels, shop in our shops, that we're getting the benefit of it for our citizens, that if we didn't have the tourists, we would not have the number of restaurants or the type of shopping we have now.
Right, we don't necessarily have the economic base of people who live in Hampton to support Peninsula Town Center unless it's supplemented by the region and by our tourists. I hadn't really thought about the tourist component there. That's interesting.
Yeah, a number of our restaurants decided to make that location here after the convention center was announced. So we're very pleased that the spinoff has really shown that all, rising tide floats all boats, which is a lot of the citizens would have heard during the convention chat. But what that really meant was that it really created that synergy. That Hampton alone, with its residents, may not necessarily be able to generate today, but with the addition of tens of thousands of people coming here for conventions, these national change and national franchises have had an opportunity to see that there is a lot more potential in Hampton, and we're all benefiting from it.
Well, and it feeds on itself too. If somebody comes here for a convention and they go back home and say to their spouse, I had a great time there. There's a lot more to see. Let's plan a vacation there. I mean, really,
and I can
let's retire there, or
relocate our business there.
Right.
Most people don't think of tourism as economic development. but I call it the softer side. It's not the bricks and mortar that you traditionally see with economic development, but with tourism, I call it's a little softer approach because we don't necessarily, unless we get a new hotel, see those folks here for the vacation. But there are a number of people that once they've been here for a convention, vacationed here, have relocated businesses here or in the Hampton Roads area. And then we have a number of retirees. I mean, Hampton Roads is a wonderful place for people to retire.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you, Sallie, for coming by today.
It's been my pleasure.
It's good to hear about this and have this discussion and remind people that it's an important part of our economy and our tax base.
Well, thank you. We'd love to come and share as new developments come along. I hope you'll invite us back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into this episode of Round Robin. Please come back next time.